Hi, and welcome to this webinar this afternoon on delivering successful projects. I'm going to talk you through a model framework that I've been working on for many years that's kind of coming to fruition now on how to actually deliver successful projects. And in talking about projects, in this instance, we're generally talking about digital projects, transformation projects, change projects. We're not necessarily talking about big capital projects, building cinemas or huge buildings or anything like that. This is focusing purely on digital transformational change projects. To give you a bit of background on me, obviously you can read the screen and see what's on there, but I've been an IT director in local government for a long time, working with internal teams and external suppliers. I've been project manager, I've been program manager, I've been implementation director of a software house. I've had PMOs reporting into me multiple times, again, internal and external. And I think I've got a really good background and knowledge of projects, what makes them work, what doesn't make them work, and actually how we can start to deliver them better. Even when you work in a really high governance kind of environment, local government, central government are killers for that, where actually the level of kind of reporting, highlight reports, information passed up the chain is often actually more than the actual work you're doing on the project itself. And there is a way to do this, and an easy-ish way to do this, and kind of bring some of that agile methodology along with you, looking at the principles and values of the Agile Manifesto, implementing those into your projects, but in a way that still gives you the comfort and the confidence to deliver projects in an agile manner, but also with the right governance and the audit trail and everything else that some of these organizations require. So I'm going to talk about what I call the 5D Agile Framework. You will figure out quite quickly why it's called 5D. I haven't come up with a better name for it, hence why it's called that. But it is fairly obvious when you get into it why we've called it that. And it is a framework, so that means it is something that you're meant to amend, change, make it work for you, kind of use the outline of it, take that forwards, add to it, change it, and really make it work for your organization. Every organization is different, and too often we just take a single methodology and almost nail it to every single project that we're doing, whereas actually we need to think differently and do differently with our projects. And so this framework, we steal a little bit from Scrum. You'll notice some of that. There's a little bit of Kanban that we've put in there. There's some Prince2 elements, because actually with all projects, you still need elements of proper project management within that. And I've put a little bit of Be the Five. It's a book I wrote a couple of years ago, and it talks about a methodology effectively for writing strategies, planning your digital work. And we've taken bits of that. If you have read the book, the last stage of it is called Deliver. And actually it does talk about this framework within that. I just hadn't named it at the time, so it's a bit more generic in the book than it is today, a few years later. But for us, Agile is applying the values and principles of the Agile Manifesto into your programs and projects. A lot of people talk about kind of Agile project management and immediately jump straight to Scrum and run a Scrum kind of project. It's not about that. It's about looking at those values. What do they say? You may need to reword them slightly into project talk or into your business talk. They are now quite old, so you can update some of them a little bit. But it's taking those principles and values, applying them to what you do and how you do it. And as I mentioned, we focus on digital and transformational change programs and projects. So when you're looking at a wider program, and if you've listened to me talk before on a digital leaders event, I have covered the whole kind of 5 stages from strategy, plan, business case, project, and benefits. In this instance, we're just going to look at the project layer. So you may ask me kind of where the benefits at the end of it or the business case. They are part of the process, but project is its own standalone element. And that's the bit we're going to touch on today. So project failure rates, ridiculously high in most cases. You can see the big numbers on the screen. I've highlighted them. And even if you said some of those are wrong, if you average them all, it still comes to an 80% kind of failure rate. Again, failure is a difficult thing to kind of put an accurate decipher on. Everyone kind of uses a different terminology, will use different ways of measuring success. Did it deliver the benefits? Did it go live on time? Did it come into under budget or on budget? There's lots of different ways of talking about it, but however you kind of look at it, you're still looking at a high number of projects that are deemed to have failed or not achieved everything they wanted to. And that's far too high, and it has been for far too long. And so some of what we're going to talk about today is how you can remodel your projects to try and get them to succeed, to hit all the benefits that you want them to hit and deliver in a way that you want them to be delivered. It doesn't take much to go onto Google and just do a quick search for kind of the problems, why failure rate's so high. There's a couple of examples on screen from Forbes and from ProofHub. Literally just Googled a couple of lists, but you'll see various things that keep coming out. Lack of alignment, business outcomes, matches unclear goals and objectives, inaccurate cost and time estimates, unrealistic expectations. They're all in there. And there's lots of reasons, and every project again will be different. The failure will be different. The problems you hit will be different. Working with different departments, organizations, different teams will all have its own kind of issues and problems. So if you're experiencing these sort of things, you're not alone. These are fairly common. I mean, there's hundreds of search results for top 10 problems of projects on the internet. It's something everyone goes through. And what we're trying to do is kind of mitigate a lot of these problems through how we work. So I also see lots of problems, lack of resources. I think some of the key ones for me, we still use Excel, Word and email and SharePoint to run our projects. We don't necessarily have a single tool or a tool to do it. So data from those projects is spread across multiple kind of environments. You've got decisions that are made via email. You've got Excel spreadsheets with information on. You've got Word documents that have gone through the governance process. It's kind of all over the place. So you can't just have a single view of everything that's going on. Almost as bad as that is some organizations have a single PPM tool, and that's then applied to every single project. So you will end up in a position where you have the same kind of governance and oversight being applied to a big capital project as you would a small kind of digital implementation. There may be a few elements different, but you're still working from the same tools and they're still running the same methodology. And obviously a lot of those big tools are designed around Prince 2 only, unless you're kind of move away from that. You're looking at something like Jira, which is based around Scrum and how that works. And also IT today and digital and change teams want to be more agile. They want to implement things in a different way. We don't have all the answers up front. And so we do actually need to think about how we're going to run them and how we're going to work them, because just applying the same model that we do in Prince 2 or the same model we do, the same governance that we do to everything else, isn't actually going to work when it comes to these digital projects. So the framework, the basic model that we've got is very, very simple. You have a project. You'll have done some work, as I said, on that kind of first or second screen. You'll have done work around the strategy, the business case, working out what the plan looks like. You then get to the project stage. From the project stage, we're going to move into what we call races. And effectively, they are very similar to sprints. And you can see how we're kind of looking at Scrum and how we're applying some of that. The difference for me really is that when you're doing a product and you're working in a team that are building products, developing products, when you're talking about sprints, you're generally talking kind of like every 3 weeks, every 2 weeks, a set period over time, because you're trying to measure cadence of the teams, how many points they're achieving, how well they're doing, how many things we've unblocked. Are they improving week on week? When it comes to projects, we're not really in that same boat. We're not in that same model. We can still break them down into time boxes, which effectively is a race, but we can actually change the size of each of these. So if you're doing a particular project, you might be looking at a web project, and the first 6 weeks is just kind of away doing some design work, doing some wireframes and some other bits. Yeah, that first race might be 6 weeks long, because that's the kind of the sensible option and period of time that you need to do for reporting. When you get down to kind of race 4, race 5, race 6, as you get towards go live, you might want to start making those 2 weekly, 1 weekly, and we'll get to the reasons on that. But if you think of each race almost as a reporting period, then it will start to make a bit more sense to you. So if you're saying for the first 6 weeks of a project, we don't need to have that much reported back to us, we can have a bigger race. But actually, as we get nearer go live and we need to fix things quickly, we need to find out what's happening, what's wrong. As we move to weekly races, the feedback, the reporting that we can do is much quicker, and we can jump onto issues and problems that arise as they're coming up. We're not waiting till the end of the month to get a highlight report that tells us that something went wrong 3 weeks ago. And then under the races, we break everything down into a series of tasks. Again, if you were talking about kind of Scrum and that, you'd be talking about a backlog of user stories and things that you're building against. We're talking about projects and project management and project success. So we're talking about tasks that we have to do within the project. And so this is just an easy way to break those down into a simple model that are really going to help you. And because we don't always know exactly what we're going to do or how the end result is going to be achieved, having tasks where effectively you can plan the next race in advance or the next race just helps you to be adaptable and bring some of that agility into your project. Now, of course, you can put all the tasks in day one and fill your project completely, or you can put some in, and then as you go, you add more and more tasks into that model. So with the races, as I said, you're breaking work down into chunks. It's effectively a time box. People talk to me about time boxes as if it's a new thing, but we've been using calendars for quite a while now, a couple of thousand years at least. And most of our work we do is monthly. We all work to monthly schedules. We get paid monthly. All these things are monthly. So working to time boxes isn't much difference to that. And for the vast majority of you working on projects, you're probably doing monthly reports, monthly highlight reports. So all we're doing is taking that concept of a time box and saying, actually, we need to either make them longer, make them shorter, make them more accurate for the amount of work that we need to do based across the project. And so one of the things we're trying to get away from in this, and big red cross against, is Gantt charts. I don't like them. I've never liked them. And there's almost an industry been built around them. Once you've done a project Gantt chart, it almost takes one person the entire project just to keep it updated, keep it informed, and keep it on track. What I find is, as well, is it doesn't allow you almost that forward look of, I need to work with revs and bends in a couple of months, so I need to know who's available and what tasks we've got on for them. It's kind of a little bit more disjointed, because everything moves, every date moves, every time you move something, everything else moves with it. And for me, it just doesn't work in digital anymore. I think it's probably great for big construction projects and working things out that have to be done in a set specific order. But in most digital and transformational programs, they don't need to be done in that such a set order. So actually, if you do need to speak to Steve in Revs and Bends next week and Steve's away, you can put other tasks into that race to complete those, bring them forwards and move them around. So you've got some, again, adaptability, agility with how you're running your projects. And one thing not happening doesn't then shift the entire project to the right, because you can be more adaptable with that. It also means you can start to forward plan better. You can sit there at the end, as you get towards the end of race one, you might have a meeting that says, okay, let's work out exactly what tasks we're going to put into race two. You may already have some in that, but you may want to add some more into that as well and make it more useful for you. You can have a clear outcome at the end of each race. So because we've got rid of the Gantt charts, we don't really have milestones either, but your milestone is effectively the end of each race. So you can have a clear outcome that says at the end of this race, this is where we want to be on the project. And obviously at the end of the race, you can report against where you are within that. It also allows you to have a retrospective where you can look back then at race one as a project team or as a PMO and go, okay, how well did we do in race one? Did we achieve everything we wanted to? What tasks weren't completed? What tasks were? Did we have any issues? And we can talk through that. So a lot of those elements of Scrum around sprint planning, retrospectives, time boxes, and all of those are starting to come through, but we're just kind of tweaking them and adapting them for how we want to run a project and how we want to work as project managers within that. We now then get on to tasks and actions. And this is where the 5D bit probably becomes quite obvious to most of you, in that within the race, we then break everything down into tasks and actions. So each task on its own should fit into a race. If it goes across multiple races or across 2, across 3, then you need to break the tasks down into smaller chunks so they all fit. And obviously one of the reasons of this is when you get to the end of that race, you want to be able to report on how much we've done within it. Very difficult to do that if tasks are ongoing or left open. What you also need to think about is tasks equals data. The more information you're putting into a system about the tasks you're doing, why you're doing them, and everything else, the better you're going to be at the end of that project, understanding why you've done it, the way you've done it, the decisions that you've made, how you get better as a team at delivering projects yourselves, because we want you to improve. There's so much kind of project data that isn't held in a project system. And again, this comes back to that adage around people using Excel and Word and email and SharePoint and everything else. All of this data is disparate and it's all over the place. What we're trying to make you think about is how you bring all of that data together. And obviously there's the 5Ds or the 5 types of tasks or action. So we have discuss, discover, decide, design, and deliver. So these are the 5 steps from the methodology in my first book, Be the 5. That was looking at a higher level. That was looking at senior management and how we get kind of strategies written and approved. We've brought that down a tier now, and we're talking about how we manage projects and how we run projects to make them successful. So we have discussion tasks. Who are we talking to? What about? We have discovery tasks. And I'll take you through those in a little bit more detail with the next few slides. But what we often find with IT projects and digital projects especially is they'll often start out great and we'll be working side by side with the business and we're going along nicely, and then something will happen that makes us split. And it might be that the business department is suddenly not available. I've seen areas where they've had to go into special measures and get pulled from projects. It might be that digital are trying to push ahead too quickly and the business can't release the resources to keep up with it. Even worse than this model is that the two have never actually spoken at all. And IT are just trying to implement lots of stuff without necessarily having the right kind of level of conversation or discussion with the business. And so what we're trying to do with this model is move it into a much more joined up approach. So in our framework, the whole reason we have tasks that are put into certain categories is so that we can bring the business department and IT along on the same journey together. It keeps us joined up. And as you'll see when we get to the reporting side of it, you can pull a report that says how many discussed tasks did we do in the last race. So you can see if they're dropping off. Are we having enough conversations? Are we capturing that information? How many decisions have we made? What decisions have we made? Do we need to think about what we're doing? So there's huge amounts of information and data that we're now going to start to pull together into these projects that are going to help us deliver and deliver them really well. So discuss tasks, very, very simple. It's conversation. Let's talk to people. Communication is one of the biggest factors you'll have in delivering projects and project success. So you're sat there, you need to start thinking about what information are we going to capture? Who do we need to speak to? When do we need to speak to them? Are we doing show and tells? Are we getting conversation back with them? Are we doing demos? It might be a nothing conversation, but actually it's really important to know that you've had that conversation. And again, you have to look at some of these as to think, in a year's time, when we look back at this project and we're saying, why did we do it that way? Or what did we do? What decisions were made? All of that information now is kind of brought together, and you've got easy access to that to be able to see exactly what's happening and going on. And so when you're sat there going, oh, why did we do it red when we should have done it blue? Hopefully there's a task or action or under a decision or a design that we'll get to that says this is the reason why we did it this way. And it might be that the resources you had at that time were specialists in red and not blue. It might be that there was a financial constraint that meant you had to choose red, not blue. But so much of that information and data just gets lost or gets held in an email system somewhere, and it's not sat within the project or program showing you exactly what's going on. So discover tasks, again, quite simple. What discovery have we done? What have we found out? All the way through the project, we should be looking at what we're discovering, who we're talking to, what are we finding out, what are other people doing, what research have we done? And again, on these slides, you'll note there's some orange quotes. All of those are either values or principles from the Agile Manifesto. So we're looking at how we're kind of bringing those values and principles into the framework that we're now talking about to make sure that we do deliver and that we deliver well. Decisions, very straightforward, but let's keep decisions as part of the project. Let's not have a 20-page change notice where we have to submit to 5 other people, because really when we're talking about Agile and we're talking about Agile project management, we're talking about Agile product management, we're talking about kind of empowering the project team to make decisions, to make changes, to tweak things. We can't just keep working in a world where we want to make a change, but that means we have to write a paper, and the paper has to go to the project board, and then the project board have to give it to the program board, who give it to the portfolio board, and then it gets signed off. We need to kind of empower the project team to sit down, clever people, to say, this is what we need to do, which way should we do it? And actually, from my perspective, I've always been one that prefers people to make a decision based on the information they've got at the time, even if a year down the line that decision appears to have been the wrong one once you have kind of more information and more data. But you're almost in a just this process of covering your own backside by going through a huge amount of governance just to get decisions made. Now, you may still have to go through some of that, especially in the early days of adopting a framework like this, but always keep a record of those within the project itself. Get them out of Word documents, get them out of emails. Design tasks, obviously you're going to have decision. We've talked about whether it's red or blue. There's going to be huge amounts of design, process re-engineering, lots of stuff that you can add in. Again, think about all of these not being something that's designed to be difficult or hard to fill out. It's all about data, capturing the right information, because what we're doing here is not just thinking about how we're delivering this project, but also how we're going to deliver other projects in a better way going forwards. And deliver tasks are quite straightforward, because they're the what are we actually doing as part of this process during the next race. So you can sit down and go, right, so we've got some decisions, we've got some discussions, we've got some other elements, and now we've got to stuff that we actually need to go and deliver. Now, when you're looking at these task types, you've got various ways of kind of understanding them, because you can say in each race, we'll actually do all the discuss tasks first, then we'll do the discover tasks, then we'll make decisions, then we'll design it, then we'll deliver it. And you can step through each race in that order. You can throw all your tasks into a race and pick the top one and work off, and that's kind of a bit more Kanban in a way that you just take the next task, complete it, move on. Or you can obviously throw them all into the race and do them with the order that you think is the best to do them in, not necessarily just the next one that comes up. So again, within the framework, we're trying to say, put the data in, have categories of tasks and types, introduce your own tasks and types. They don't have to begin with a D either. You can put anything in, but just think about the types of things that you're doing regularly, that actually, if you had that information, it would be really useful as part of the project, at the end of the project, or in a year's time on the project. And think about not just from your perspective as a project manager, but also from a PMO lead, a head of PMO, a head of IT, a chief operating officer. What kind of information might they want to see that you're then putting into the system? And when I designed the framework, a lot of it was from that kind of high level role, looking back at, I know when I've been presented information, how much I've been presented and how much I can actually take in and absorb, especially when you're in a process where you're almost putting 2-3 days away at the end of each month to write highlight reports. If you then put 40 highlight reports on my desk, the likelihood of me reading any of them is slim. Well, it's slim to none, to be honest. But actually, if you can display that in a simple way, give me an update that says this is where we are on the projects, much easier for me to see, much easier for me to absorb that. And then Agile, to many people, they think that means no paperwork, no governance, nothing around the project, but actually you still have to do a lot of work around this. You still have to plan the project in each race. You have to keep risks and issues. There's stakeholders, there's budgets that you need to manage. There's always going to be reporting and lots of other things that come with being a project manager or project lead. And for me, this is an element of why it's different again from product management, especially when product management is in-house and you're building stuff for your internal teams, as opposed to almost IT building stuff for other services within the organization. You are still going to have to do stakeholder management. You're going to have to do comms plans. You're going to have to manage the budgets. You're going to have to do a lot of reporting. That's part and parcel of running projects. Products try to avoid a lot of that. And rightly so, they want to focus on developing software, building stuff. But you can't always just almost have a black and white version. There's lots of grey areas that you still have to think about. What does my organization need from me as someone leading a project? And reporting, as I said, everything that we're now putting into the system is data. And if all of the data you're putting in can now be reported against, and it can be reported against in a very simple and easy way, almost one-click reporting, then that becomes much easier and simpler to manage. So the days of past for me, where almost 2-3 days at the end of each month were put aside to start writing highlight reports, if during the month I've created really good habits and I've put my tasks in, I've allocated them, I've closed them down at the end of each race, then I can report on that with one click. That's very simple and easy to do. You can tell people how you're doing at the end of each race. You can look at the entire program of work as to how you're doing. You can do end of year reports that say this is how many projects we did and how we did with the projects. And essentially, if you're putting project data into a system and you're capturing all that information, you can then report across it, and you can use your own tools, you can use BI tools, you can use various elements to bring that information forward and present it back to the rest of the organization in a very simple way. The problems come when you don't capture the data or you have to manipulate it from multiple sources. It's then very difficult to kind of give that summary upwards that gives them enough confidence in you and your team to allow you to run projects in a kind of more agile way, and give you the power to kind of take those projects on and to run them properly yourselves without huge amounts of governance sitting over the top of you. So a couple of reports that I've kind of pulled out that you might want to think about. This is one that's my end of race report. So at the end of each race, this is basically saying this is how many tasks you had, this is how many you completed, this is how many you didn't complete. That gives you a percentage figure, and obviously we've got a RAG status against the percentages. So again, I'm looking at this as a head of PMO, as an IT director, as a chief operating officer. I'm looking at that and going, okay, where are the problems? Where do I need to have conversations? Who do I need to talk to? Why have some of these gone wrong? And actually, they might be red for a really good reason. They might be amber for a really good reason, but they're the ones my eye are drawn to, and they're the ones we're going to have conversations about. And again, that gives me a level of comfort that my project team are kind of on top of what's happening and know what's going on. It doesn't have to be much more complicated than that. It gives you a really good idea of where we're at with things. You may notice there is a slide deck that's going to be a bit of a sales pitch at you at some point, but I do have a system that does this. This is one of the reports in that system. But showing you from here, it's because we've broken these projects down by the type of tasks. So we can immediately go on and say, are we having enough discussions? Are we doing discovery? Are we making decisions? And within the system, obviously, I can click into those decisions and say, what was it? What have we decided? What are we doing? And again, if you go from kind of 10 discussion tasks in each race and then suddenly it goes to 2, that to me is a bit of a flag to say, well, hang on, why have we stopped having those conversations? Are the business not available anymore? What are they at? Are they too busy? What work are they doing? And so it kind of gives you that information and that visual view of, are we still kind of on track? Are we still aligned with the business? Or have we started that separation? And actually the number of tasks we're doing that involves the business have started to drop off. So you can instantly kind of see that and get back on top of it very quickly. This again is a simple report that just shows all the decisions. So if you've put all the decisions into a system, you can just pull a report and filter it by decide. And it gives you a very quick overview of every decision that you've made on every project. Again, you could filter that by individual projects or various other bits, but how much quicker is that than searching through emails or searching through Word documents where you've got a folder per project and a change control notice per project in each folder and everything else? You can't see exactly what's going on. So this is just showing you exactly how quick and easy, by putting data into a system, you can then start to pull really useful reports. Obviously, I've just thrown words in to give you a demo of a decision here. So don't read too much into the things that Dave has agreed to lead on pieces of work. But it is about having that information, that data readily to hand for you as a PMO and as a project team to be able to kind of say, we've made these decisions within the projects based on where we were, what we were doing at the time. And then one that I quite like, and I think we almost forget about in a way, is end of project success. So for me, I like to mark our projects as gold, silver, and bronze. The criteria for each one is up to you. You can completely just make up your own criteria about whether it was on time, whether it was the budget, or however you want to think about what success means to you. Get some criteria together, and just at the end of each project, just give it a simple gold, silver, bronze kind of rating. I've obviously chosen that because we use races, so there's a bit of methodology. And if you read the book, it talks about laps making up a race and various other bits. So there's a bit of an athletics theme behind it. But what it means is at the end of each year, you can sit down and pull a report and say, okay, how did we do on all of our projects? And you might have done 20 projects and you might say 10 were gold, 7 were silver and 3 were bronze. That's a great year. You've done really well. But actually, let's have a look at the 3 bronzes. What did go wrong? What didn't work? Why did we give them a bronze status? How do we get those into silver? We can look at the silvers and go, how do we make those golds? So obviously, don't give yourself criteria that allows you to put every project into gold and say you're great at doing them. But there should be enough information there for you to go, as a team, as a PMO, as a digital team, as an IT department, we want to get better at delivering projects. Therefore, we need to understand how well we're doing already. And too often, I think we just get to the point where we close a project down. Some councils will have a stage gate or something, a stage 4 process where you pull up a report and it says, this is what happened in the project. Here's some lessons learned. Brilliant. That goes in the folder, never looked at again. Here, we're trying to be a bit more kind of, again, agile, adaptive, working with you. This report doesn't have to go anywhere. It doesn't have to go any further than the PMO. But you want to be getting better at what you do. You want to be getting better at estimating how long a project should be. You want to get better at making sure you've got all the right tasks in them, better at budgeting, making sure that's covered. So think about you as a team as well. How do you make yourselves better? Not just how are you delivering projects within your organization. Now, as I said, I'm not going to do a huge sales pitch to you, but effectively we've built the system already that does all of this for you. So we've taken that framework, we've taken the model, we've built that into a system. It's built on Salesforce, but you don't have to be a Salesforce customer or anything or know anything about Salesforce to work it. There's no setup. It self-configures, but you can kind of see across the top of that screen, you've got your programs, your projects, your races, your tasks, and your risks and issues, and then your reporting. So we've tried to make it as simple as possible. And we know that a lot of you work with Excel, and we're trying to build a system that is almost as easy for you to use as Excel. We want you to create better habits. We want you to create habit forming ideas of putting these tasks in, making sure they're updated, making sure you're closing them at the end of every race. And we're trying to make you better at what you do. We have this system. It's mobile friendly. It works. It's hugely customizable. The tabs at the top where you see programs, projects, races, and tasks, they're what Salesforce refer to as custom objects. There's 5 in the system currently. You can add 10 more yourself, and you can add up to, I think, about 500 fields per custom object as well. And so you can the amount of additions you can make to the system is huge. And this is why when I talk about 5D Agile being a framework that you take and you amend and you make it work for you, this is exactly what I mean. We've built the core of the system. It covers the basics. If you just use our system as it is, it will help you deliver your projects. It will help you to remove your pain points of your projects, what takes you too long, what's frustrating, the amount of governance, the reporting. We've taken care of all of that for you. But each individual organization might say, actually, we need something that does this, or we need something that does that. You can add that in, you can build that, you can change it. The configuration, as I said, is ridiculous, but it is a system that we've built. It's called DITCH, which is actually an acronym of Digital and Transformational Change. That is what it's designed for. It's been designed by people who do projects, have done projects, have reported on them, who chair IT boards, who know what those updates look like. But we also know how much time and effort it takes to get to that point. And by the time you often get to a board, the information that you're being shown is 6 weeks out of date and has been overtaken. So this is more live information. It's more accurate. It gives you a much better view of those tasks, actions, races, projects, programs that you're running. You can either view everything by individual project, or you can view it across the entire program. We've tried very hard to build a model that is project on a page. So all the information that you need to work that project is on a single page. You can see everything that you need to get to. I'm not going to do any more than that. The website is up there. Take a look if that's of interest to you and you think this framework can actually help you deliver your projects. There is a free trial. It's a 30-day trial. You don't need to be a Salesforce customer. As I said, you can just go on, take that trial and see how it works for you and see how much you can adapt and amend the system to work for you. But today is really about the framework and getting you interested in working in a different way, thinking about projects differently, and thinking more about the success of projects than it is about kind of old school project management. We're not MS Project, we're not Primavera, we're not any of those systems, and we don't want to be. That's not where we are. We're talking about change programs, transformation programs, digital programs, and really helping you to deliver those in a really effective way that helps the organization, but helps IT and the business kind of work together and keep on top of their projects. So as I said at the start, I've just focused on one area. We've focused on projects. We haven't gone into any of the other elements of that. Ultimately, I would like Ditch, my product, to cover all 5 areas so they flow nicely from one to the other. But we've started with the project element. But it is a really key area, and don't underestimate that you still have work to do before you get to the project. That's still part of it. If you do have a Prince 2 qualification, you'll know how much kind of work goes into pre-project than actual delivery of the project. We're generally focusing here on delivery of the projects and achieving project success. And I think really the basis of our system, and my favorite principle of the Agile Manifesto, is simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. And I think that's huge in the industry of how much time, effort, and everything we put into the reporting, the governance, the updates, and everything, rather than actually delivering the system. So we're hoping that we've built you a framework and then a tool that allows you to get on with the project and really deliver without having to worry too much about all of those other bits. As I mentioned, there is a book out there. Ditch is the system. I've got a YouTube channel. There is a digital confidence podcast. Be the Five is kind of, again, the book and the courses that I run at a senior management level to get them to understand how technology should be used to the benefit of the organization. It's not about getting them to understand how it works, because no one wants to explain how ChatGPT actually works to a counsellor in a council, but you do want to explain to them the benefits that you can derive from using it. And that's what that book talks about. If you go onto the Sin City website, there is a free PDF version of that you can download, again, without any information really to put into that. So I'm hoping that's been of interest and of use. It is a framework I'm pushing and promoting, and it is a framework that will grow, it will change, it will adapt over time. People will add bits to it. New things will come up, new ideas will come up. As I say, we've built Ditch to try and help you on that journey. We're excited that Salesforce have started releasing all their AI tools. So we're looking at how we can bring some of those into that environment. If you know Salesforce, you know they also own Slack, you know they own Tableau. Again, how can we benefit from using some of those tools to really make it a bit more of an ecosystem of delivering this change and delivering success? So hope you've enjoyed that. Hope it's been good. My details are on screen. Any questions, drop me an email or text or WhatsApp message. But thank you very much for listening, and hope you enjoyed it.